So firstly, welcome everyone. Thank you very much for joining this session. So just to give a very brief introduction about myself, my name is Tejas Shetty, and I work as a cloud solution architect with Software One. So today's session is a joint event with Parity and Software One. It's a Tech Edge webinar where we are focusing on uh, from legacy to fabric with focusing on accelerating Power BI migrations from Tableau and SAP BOBJ to Power BI and Microsoft Fabric. So before starting, I'll just quickly run you through the agenda. So today, what I am going to be covering is the why. What is my Microsoft Fabric? Why is it built? And why are organizations wanting to move to Fabric? And then the my colleagues from Sparity will take you through the practical migration journey, the assessment tools, best practices, and some real world results as well. So we just to go through the agenda, I'll be talking about the modern day challenges and fabric, and then we'll one by one touch up on all the common migration scenarios, how the BI port tool helps you migrate, the best practices, and future any ready analytics platforms as well, right? Okay, so before getting on to Fabric or telling you all what Fabric is, let me just frame what problem was Fabric built for, right? So today, most organizations have a data platform that looks like patchwork because everything and everyone is working in silos. So you have one tool for ingestion, you'll have another tool for transformation, you'll have a data lake, you'll have a data warehouse, you'll have a different Power BI platform, and a governance layer separately as well, right? So in its own security model, there is no governance, there is no security. So what happens in result is your data engineers are basically spending 60 to 70% of their time just moving data between these systems, right? And not actually analyzing it or building anything valuable with it. They're just piping the data from one tool to another and moving it from one place to another, and meanwhile, governance in all of this has become a nightmare because now every silo will have a different permission, will have a different audit trail. Compliance teams need to report everything separately in every reporting cycle. And then what happens is now the AI era has arrived. So now what every CTO or CIO is going to ask for directly is, real-time dashboard, Power BI, Copilot, powered insights, making faster decisions. They'd want real-time dashboards. And with all these things, all these silos, getting all these real-time has become a very big challenge. Now, Fabric is basically built to bridge that gap between what IT can deliver and what the business currently needs, right? That was where Fabric was designed. So now, just to give you a brief about what basically Fabric is. So Fabric is an end-to-end SaaS analytics platform, which is actually built for the AI era currently. Now, at its core, what Fabric does is it unifies every step of the data journey. Now, I'm talking about ingestion, storage, engineering, data science, warehousing, and let's say real time analytics, the business intelligence part, everything under one product unified. Now, unified here becomes the keyword because Fabric is not, just bundling all your existing tools. Here, whatever you see, everything shares the same storage layer, everything has the same security model, everything has the same billing. So it is fundamentally different from any other analytical platform you were using previously. Now you see there's Copilot and Fabric over here. Now it is not for one particular thing. It's not just an add-on. Now Copilot is built into every workload of Fabric. We'll talk about Copilot also moving forward in this. And now underpinning all of this is your one lake. Now one lake becomes a unified data storage solution where all sort of your entire organization's data will be present at one location. Let's talk about one lake, right? So the foundation of everything in Fabric is one lake. And the simplest way I can put it is like it's a OneDrive, but it's a OneDrive for your organization's data, not your personal data. So every organization gets one logical lake. The moment they turn Fabric on, it is one lake for the entire tenant, not for one team or one person or one department. Every workload you have in Fabric, whether it be for a data engineer, a data scientist, or a Power BI analyst, all that data reading and writing, everything happens on the same lake. So that is what one lake is. And don't worry, there's no data duplication or copying between engines or users that will happen. It is going to be accessed equally by any, whatever you want to do with it. Now, if we look at the diagram, we see that, all your data factory, engineering, science, everything falls under one lake. And whatever data you want to move from any source, whether it be Azure, Amazon, or any other thing, whether it could be multiple workspaces you create in Fabric, everything falls under this one data lake. So that makes it very easy for you to access your organization's data. And now all of this data is stored in a single format called as the Open Delta Packet format. So your data is never logged into any particular proprietary format. Any tool that speaks Delta or Packet can read the data directly, whether it could be your Databricks or Spark Analytics or anything else in your ecosystem. So, right, so that is the power of one lake. You have one copy and you have one governance model and you have one place to secure. So everything is at one place where you can monitor it, govern it, and use it efficiently. Now, talking about how does data actually go into this one lake, right? How do you bring in data to the one lake? So that becomes your next question. So to talk about that now, like starting in the middle, and everything sits on one Fabric compute engine. And whether it's Spark queries you want to do, KQL queries, T SQL queries, SQL queries, everything is supported in this. So you see over here, every data model that you have can use its own querying engine to query data from the one lake. So it is not limited to one thing. Everything points down to one lake directly. On the left side, you see is the mirroring option. So if you have Microsoft products such as Microsoft SQL DB, Cosmos DB, SQL MI, Databricks, or for that matter, Snowflake or any other tool, you can have a mirroring directly incorporated into Fabric's One Lake, where a near real time data mirroring will happen from your databases to the Fabric One Lake. Now, there are also options such as open mirroring. So, open mirroring is basically this extending the mirroring capability to third party platforms such as Oracle Golden Gate, your MongoDB, DataStack. So, if you have any such of any third party tools, you can get direct connectors where you can do open mirroring. You also have multi-cloud shortcuts where you can bring in data from different clouds. Let's say you have something in Google, you have something in Amazon, it could be S3 or some sort of storage. You can directly just use multi-cloud shortcuts to bring in that data onto one lake. So it is as simple as that. Even in the bottom right here, you see our open access APIs. So this basically covers your Databricks APIs, Azure AI Studio, and everything is built on the ADLS Gen 2 compatible storage itself. So now, wherever your data is, whether it's on premises, whether it's on some third party cloud or some hyperscaler or anywhere, you can just directly bring in all the data and store it in Microsoft Fabric's One Lake, right? Now talking about putting the your insights in the hands of your people. Now when we talk about Power BI analyst, okay, they are comfortable with using the Power BI ecosystem. They primarily work with Power BI, but that changes for your business users and your leadership, right? But in Fabric, that doesn't change because even for your business or leadership users, the data can be directly consumed in Teams. It can be directly land in their Outlook inbox. You can even use third-party tools such as SAP or Salesforce or Oracle to directly publish your data. Now, even we talk about latest things, right? Like Copilot Studio is something which is very new and it's a common use case that everybody is going for. It interacts with that also, which basically would let you, build conversational interfaces on top of your Fabric. So what happens is your users can, just literally ask a question and get an answer instead of navigating through a report entirely. So that is a very, meaningful shift from for how non-technical users would engage with your data. So your Fabric allows direct publishing of your data into your Microsoft platform, the entire ecosystem, as well as your third-party platforms such as Salesforce, SAP, and other things which are there, right? Then talking about, okay, quickly, I'll not go very much in detail about all the, compute power or engine which is available in Fabric, but there's Data Factory, which is your, there's Data Factory, data engineering, there is data warehousing available. You can, from this, you can have your ETL workloads. It has more than about 200 plus native connectors and 300 data transformations which are available. There is warehousing. You can integrate your data science. You can integrate your ML studios directly to Microsoft Fabric. And then definitely we do have your Power BI and partner solutions which are also available, right? One more thing I wanted to touch upon was the co-pilot part of Fabric. Before I wrap up, just quickly wanted to show you how the Fabric was licensed. So Fabric runs under a capacity model. So it has queues like F1, F2, F4, F6, F12, right? So these are SKUs. Every SKU has a compute power attached to it. Now, depending on how many services of the Fabric you want to use, like I showed you about 9 to 10 services, right? Now, whether you want to use how many pipelines, how many Power BI reports you have or dashboards you have, how many concurrent users you have, that is how we define the Fabric capacity. So, depending on your organization's use case, you can decide which capacity would be the best option for you. Now, there is also something called as the Fabric metric capacity estimator. So once you get onboarded with Fabric, you can check the metrics capacity estimator to understand whether you're using Fabric to its optimal potential, or do you might need to increase the SKU, or do you need to decrease the SKU. So that completely depends on the metrics and your usage as well, right? But just wanted to let you know it's a SKU based thing. It is not something that is individually priced for each service. Everything runs on a single compute engine, and you pay for that compute engine. And how much you utilize is depending on how many services of the Fabric you want to utilize. And one more good thing I wanted to point out is the Fabric capacity also has a pause and a start option. So if you feel like you're not going to use any of your services, including pipelines, reports, or anything, you could just pause your Fabric capacity and you will stop the pricing costing as well. So that is the pay-as-you-go model. Fabric also has a reservation model where if you are very certain with the Fabric capacity you want to go ahead with, you can either reserve it for a period of 1 year or 3 year as well. Okay. So just to wrap, so I think before, starting the session, I just went on with what are the problems in the current data age. So how Fabric solves it, right? I explained to you how it consolidates 5 different working silos into bringing everything under Microsoft Fabric. It gives you a variety of cost saving options where, as I mentioned, you can start stop Fabric capacity, you can reserve Fabric capacity. Then talking about the governance and security, you have everything under one umbrella. So governance becomes very easy, and you have Microsoft Purview to manage that governance as well. And then again, definitely, right? Every organization, what they're asking for right now is AI and Copilot. So it is already integrated with your Fabric platform. So you do not even need to have to worry about that. So that was it from my end. So we have Sunil and Subhashini from Sperity, who will take you through the actual use case, customer scenarios, and all those things, right? So over to you, Sunil.
Yeah. Hey, good afternoon, all. Thank you, Tejas, for setting up the context very well. I see uh, the wonderful results, right? In the when we are using, we are seeing, the cost savings and even the silos that were broken in the, fabric when we migrated to fabric. That was like, walking the talk, right? We are experiencing that. Yeah, thank you for that. And yeah, let me share my screen. And while I'm sharing my screen, I'm Sunil Bachu, and I am enterprise architect as well as CTO for the organization Sparity. And I am joined today with my colleague Subhashini, and she will walk you through the live demo, right? First, I will take 15 minutes of time. Might be I will try to make it count for you. And when it comes to the migration part, right? We understood how the fabric helps in all the aspects, right? But when it comes to the migration point of view, from whatever the legacy systems we are on, right? To move, what are the challenges and how the BI port, the Asparities proprietary tool will help in minimizing that cost and effort. That is what I am going to take for this one. And if you are a data leader, and using Tableau or SAP BAPJ or any other legacy environments, right? Might be you would have faced, in your conversations, at least three things, right? Your CFO asking why BI licensing cost keep increasing year by year. And might be your Microsoft rep coming and asking why you are not on the Power BI or, these things yet, or your own team coming and talking to you about it's your migration. When we want to try the migration, it is too complex. These kind of discussions we hear, and we continue to do the migration. Now today I want to challenge the last assumption, right? To show you the way there are smarter ways. And with the conservative of 70% of cost and effort savings, we are able to do that one. And let me move to the next slide. Yeah. And what are the, when organizations moving to fabric, what is that attracting them, right? One is cost of ownership, what we have done. And you might be staying on the legacy BI platforms, maintaining them is a costly affair. Might be your TCO argument is often door opener in the CFO conversation. Power BI is bundled with Microsoft 365 or Azure, so that your organization is already pays for it. That changes the math significantly. So as part of this one, right, you are not paying additional. But what I hear from data leaders is the ecosystem argument. Your analysts are already on the Teams, Excel, SharePoint, and BI that lives where the people works get used, right? BI that requires a separate login and opening a separate page that doesn't often attract the BI analysts much. And the third one I would like to draw your attention to is the Power BI's Fabric analytics layer. If your organization has data modernization ambitions, the Fabric Power BI isn't just a reporting tool. It is a business user face for the entire modernization data platform, right? That's what like we are seeing in the industry. Let me take you to the next slide. And here is what like the common challenges, right? Like honest conversation of migration gets uncomfortable in this area, right? Like do we know what are the number of reports that we have either in Tableau or BobJ, right? Or how many are actively being used? How many of them are duplicates? Who wants these reports? These kind of questions are like uncomfortable when we come to the modernization or migration. So most data leaders, what we have seen, it is very difficult to answer them confidently. And if we can't answer that, we can't scope the project, and budgeting is also difficult. So these are the patterns we are seeing. These six challenges on the screen, whatever you are seeing is what like we see in the industry. And this is where like BI port enters, right? Like the core idea is very simple. You shouldn't write a single line of code, migration code, right? Like until you know exactly what you have, what it's worth, what order to get there, right? Like to migrate. So these are the challenges that like BI port addresses. BI port connects to your Tableau or BobJ repository, right? And produces a complete scored prioritized inventory of your BI estate within the days, not even weeks, right? Like where we spend most of the time is like, to get some feedback from the uh, customers, the business users, where they have, uh, they take like, certain questions like how to prioritize them, all those things, right? This way like we see. And one of the thing with this, right, like full data discovery, full the entire estate, right, like it is not on someone's memory, right, like what they have got built in the 2019 2000 15, something like that. Usage and complexity scoring means it's making the migration decisions based on the actual data. It's like who opened the report last time, right? Like how complex is the underlying logic? How many formulas are like how many nested loops are there? All these things with the analysis, right? Like we are doing that one with the BI port support. So what is our approach, right? Like what is the workflow? There are four steps. It's like connect and scan. It connects, natively to your server or like a repository, and then it is just read only, right? Like API account, those things to get the details. And once we get the details, we do the analyze, right? Like that kicks in, and every asset gets scored across four dimensions when it was last viewed, right? Like how active it is, how recent it is, those things, and how technically complex it is, right? Who or which department owns it, and what does it depend on? So these are the complex questions that like it addresses. And the next one is prioritize. This is where like might be we want to get the insights or like inputs from the uh, business teams, right? Like to get what, how to prioritize sometimes. But typically, if it is a technical migration, we go by the facts like how many views are there, who are viewing it, like, what, how critical it is, all those things we go. That is, where like then we plan the migration. And this is where, like, what we do, right? Like in the analysis phase, we are cleaning before we migrate. That is, we are identifying the duplicate reports. That is often 20 to 30% of the enterprise estate is like, having the duplicates. Might be the duplicate is across the divisions or the duplicates is across geographies, all those things, right? Like, and then there are stale reports. Might be, nobody viewed it in last 12 months, right? Like how many? There are certain reports which are underutilized. Like there are one view, two views, 10 views in the entire year, right? Like those kind of things. that we are figuring it out in the industry. This is like what we have seen, right? Like in the one of the user customers case before BI port, right? Like there are 3,200 reports, and we figured out like there are 26% of them are duplicates, and 65% of them stale. It is a hoping 65, and in some cases we figured out like there are 80% of the reports are stale reports, right? Like and there are 16% underutilized, and finally what we have seen is there are active and valuable is only 21%, right? After the BI port assessment, we finally together with the team, we figured out like there are only 1,050 reports that needs to be migrated. That is hoping 67%, right? Like what we have seen in one of the users case. And where do we spend our time, right? Like the effort wise in the assessment without BI port, I am talking. The assessment we spend like 20% of the time, and migration bill it is the 50%. Validation, our QA process, all those things take 20% of the time, and finally deployment, cutover, training, hypercare. These activities take 10%. But if you see, 70% of the total migration effort is consumed by assessment and migration. These are the phases where BI port directly attacks. Okay, and I will take you to the next slide. This is what we are getting through the assessment and rationalization. We see like often 60 to 70% in the reduction of the migration scope, right? Like you have 1,000 reports in your environment, but 1,000 doesn't have to migrate. Only 300 of them have to migrate. That is the first, rationalization and savings that through BI port we get within a day's time. We get those insights. And the second phase is out of these 300 reports, right? Like if I have to manually migrate, I will take a hell lot of time based on the complexity and how many DAX conversions we need to do, the semantic models that we need to build, all those things. So out of that, the BI port automates 60 to 70% of them based on the complexity, right? These are the two tires that BI port is giving you the savings. And this is what like for one of the customers, it's a representative because we can't share the actual numbers, so we rounded the numbers, right? Like so 4,500 reports after assessment, it became 1,400. And these 1,400 reports for migration, it was planned nine months manual, right? Like with multiple teams working simultaneously on that. And that has become 3.5 months of migration time. And where, limited number of teams were working on that. This is like in the migration phase itself, we have shown 70% of the, total effort savings, and we excluded whatever the overall savings that they got by reducing 3,100 reports from the scope itself, right? Like that is what like we have worked on for one customer. And what are we recommending, right? Like because migrate all those things is costly and effort, these things. uh, Organizations are taking a step back, and they want to modernize and migrate at the same time. Two different tasks, two different things, and they'll might be it's a risky affair. So what we are suggesting is you go for the assessment, rationalize, then migrate what is required. On top of that, you modernize, right? Like with the tools, it is easy. And what are the key takeaways are here? Like for whatever we discussed. With this, I give the control to my colleague Subhashini, who will walk us through next few minutes the live demo of the report. Subhashini, it's all yours. I will stop sharing.
I'd like to thank Tejas for insightful introduction to Microsoft Fabric, and then thanks to Sunil for sharing Sparity's vision and how it aligns with Microsoft Fabric's ecosystem and how having everything on one platform creates a more seamless experience for users, and how Sparity has helped clients with our tool. And with that, let's get started. So I am Subhashini, and I am working as BI lead here at Parity. And I usually work with customers from planning stage till execution of migrating from Tableau to Power BI, and understanding what their current Tableau environment looks like and what's actually being used, and then drive the migration. So let me not bore you and quickly start. Uh, I'll start by sharing my screen. So BI Port basically is a one-stop migration accelerator. Right now, it supports Tableau, SAP Crystal Reports, and SAP Webby migrations. But for today, I will focus mainly on Tableau to Power BI, because that's usually where customers, realize how complicated their reporting environment has become. So usually the first step in any migration is, uploading a single TWB or, Tableau workbook, and then perform the migration and then upload the other one. But when we say Byport is a one-stop migration accelerator, this is what is the difference. You can directly connect your Tableau environment here, either on-premise or cloud, and just click on add server. And once you click on add server, yeah, this will be the landing page. And here you should be able to see your entire Tableau landscape. It will automatically populate, how many sites are existing in your Tableau environment, how many projects, and the overall complexity. Like, you will have multiple workbooks with different level of complexities, but, we will give a average complexity of the overall Tableau environment. For this, it's medium. And for if we scroll down, we can also see how many reports have been completed, or not yet started or in progress. So this page basically helps both client and Sparity teams stay on the same page during the whole migration process. So once we are here, um I'll quickly show you the migration flow. So let me go to my workbooks, and oh yeah, Superstore is one familiar, data sets that most of the BI users are familiar with. Before I migrate this dashboard, I like to show the Tableau workbook and how it looks. So this is the Tableau workbook. Here it's a dashboard, customer analysis dashboard, where we compare sales and profits by customers and then customer ranking. And it's fairly a typical, um, Tableau dashboard that usually users have in hundreds in their environment. So, this is a heat map, and then this is a circle chart in Tableau. This is basically the product drill down. And then we have overview here. It's basically profit distribution across the globe, and, monthly sales and quarterly sales, as you're able to see. And yeah, so it's a fairly typical dashboard that we usually have in customer environments. So let me quickly go back to BI port. So once I click on the workbook, it already shows me the screen which we call dashboards of dashboards, where it already gave us this analysis that there are 6 dashboards in this particular workbook, and there are 13 visuals, out of which 11 are native and 2 are custom visuals. And it also tells us that there are 10 calculations. So once we are on this screen, if you want detailed analysis, we can quickly download the analysis. I'll quickly go through this without wasting a lot of time. It basically has all the tables and the columns that have been used. Okay, yeah, I guess this. Yeah. So it also mentions what are the columns, what are the dashboard names. It also gives us details of the, if there are any parameters used in the workbook. And yeah, and the table details, like, what are the table names and their data types, the columns and their data types. Yeah, everything a developer needs, everything is there on this analysis report. You also have the worksheet names, you also have the calculations. Everything is there in this analysis report. So let me not waste more time and click on this migrate. So once I click on the migrate, we should be able to extract this. Yeah, usually the first load kind of takes time because, Power BI needs to have a very functional data model, unlike Tableau. The fundamentals of Tableau and Power BI vary a lot because Power BI needs a defined relationship between tables, whereas Tableau, it can work with any type of cardinality, mostly many to many, which is not supported by Power BI. So, it's basically working on the data model. So the first step when we open the Power BI file would be to connect the data source. So let me quickly connect the data source for you. Yeah. So for each table, we have to kind of upload it. Like this, just a sample. So yeah, it shouldn't take long. Okay, now I'll just close and apply because we definitely need a data source for the visuals to populate. So once this step is done, we expect to see what we saw on the Tableau file. So we have the customer analysis dashboard, which, yeah, it's loading the data. Like you're able to see, we could replicate the scatter chart, which is, customer distribution by sales and profits. And then we have customer ranking. And there are small, cosmetic adjustments we might have to do. So the sorting part, with sorted by sales so that it replicates the Tableau version. And then we have order details table, and then we have overview. This is the map and the respective distribution, the sales and profit distribution across it. And then we have product distribution. We are able to replicate the heat map. But then in Tableau, I hope you remember that, the visual below this heat map was a circle chart, which is a custom visual. And BI board doesn't fail silently. It makes sure the developer knows that there is a custom visual here and it needs redesigning. So yeah, as you're able to see, most of the structure has been replicated. Let me quickly, yeah, show you the Tableau version as well. So let me take a pause here. If you have any questions, we are open for questions. Else, I can go ahead and talk about how the analysis is done, how the discovery phase and rationalization is done. So anybody have any questions, please go ahead. Okay, I Okay, we can take the questions at the end probably. So yeah, let me go ahead with the discovery and rationalization phase. So once, in any migration, reports, migration is not the only thing that needs to be done. We need to analyze whether we really have to migrate a certain report. So usually users start their dashboards, finish it in between. They might get a new idea, they just duplicate it and try to work on a different file. So you never know, and you might have a lot of duplicates. So that is where BI ports duplicate analysis helps users. So it shows us reports that are 100% match. I hope it loads. Just a second. Okay.
You want to show screenshots.
Okay, let me quickly show you a different site. Yeah. This is one of our sites where we have all our duplicates. So this is how the duplicate analysis usually looks like. It shows us 100% matches, and it shows as little as 13%, 25% match as well. But it is us who can decide, or the clients can decide how much, what is the scope in which they can migrate or not. So you have also the matching visuals. It will, like, you have a source report and a target report, and what is identical and what is not identical if it is not 100% match. So this analysis definitely reduces the migration scope, and definitely the time, the cost. And now moving on to the next one, which is visuals. This basically helps us with, usually Tableau has many visuals like bubble chart, Gantt chart, bullet chart. These are all native in Tableau, but they are usually custom in Power BI. So, you don't have to have, like, last minute shocks while migrating. There are no last minute surprises. You will know even before the migration starts where you need customization, and that saves a lot of time for the business users and for the clients. And then the most important feature I'd say is stale reports identification, where usually there are a lot of stale reports. We get this based on the last viewed um, data from Tableau. And based on users requirement, we can set the number of days from which they want to consider it as stale. And in a recent project, like Sunil mentioned, one of our clients, they realized that they had at least 60% of their reports were stale. And it really reduced the migration scope by 60%. And then overall it reduced the cost and time and effort for them. So it really um, you know House Parity's vision has aligned with everything, really helped the client, and reduced the cost, everything. So we our aim with BI port is simply making migration easier, faster, and predictable. So that's it from me. Any questions? We are open. Thank you. Release.
Yeah, I think so. There's one question regarding Fabric on the Q&A. So if you all don't mind, I'll answer that. So the question is, how does Microsoft Fabric position itself against AWS, GCP, and Snowflake for an enterprise-wide platform? Okay, see, that's a good question. But the whole idea of Fabric is not to, compare or position against AWS, GCP, or Snowflake. Where AWS and GCP, you typically assemble multiple services to, make a entire data journey, and Snowflake basically becomes a warehouse-centric approach. Whereas the whole idea of Fabric is to be positioned as an unified analytical platform. It is where you bring everything together from engineering, warehousing, processing, real time, and BI with one data. So it's not about replacing it. So that is why Fabric also has, features as I talked about, mirroring and open mirroring that helps you, automatically pull data from AWS, Snowflake, SAP, and everything into Fabric without, with minimal movement. So it's not something against or to replace, it's to work alongside your existing ecosystem, but to simplify the analytics for that. So that is the whole idea of Fabric. I hope that answers your question, Sainath.
Akash, are there any other questions?
Sir, I think meeting with us now.
Okay.
I don't see any other questions in the chat or in the Q&A.
Okay. So let me take just a couple of minutes. We have announced Accelerate and Frontier program. If your organization is willing to migrate, right? We have these two offers that are going on now till July end, right? Within the weeks of contract sign off, right? That's what we are offering. And we are investing up to 15 lakhs in the Accelerate. And if it is Frontier program, we will invest up to 50 lakhs, right? That's what we are giving an offer. And it's organizations up to 300 workbooks, right? Gets into Accelerate, and more than 500 gets into Frontier. This one, and anything above 1,000 and all might be we can have one-on-one things here. And if you want to reach, right, you can contact Akash Nampelli at spatry.com, and his mobile number is given here. So these are the two things, and might be again you just want the assessment, right? That is just a $10 per report kind of assessment. We give the entire your landscape, right? Like Tableau or SAP Vivo. If you are migrating from those, per report, we do uh, $10 charge for the report assessment. That's it. These are the announcements I was asked to share by my CEO.
There is another question from Sainath Madhukula.
Mhm. Can someone read it out?
Yeah, I think Tejas has already answered for that question. So if no further questions, I think we can conclude this session. Thank you everyone for joining this session. We will reach out to you everyone, or else you can reach out to us if you have any requirement in the BI migration space, or you wanted to initiate or start your journey with Microsoft Fabric. So Software One and Sparity both will help you in your Microsoft journey. Thank you everyone. Thank you very much.